Well, and we're good.
Yep.
Well, everybody, we'll welcome you to this week's version of Live with Lussetto. We've got my daughter Jazz and also the usual Dan Christensen with his new girlfriend in tow. And this week's guest is Shaun Reed. And Shaun, I might just have you introduce yourself and where you're from and what you're pulling now.
Well, we're based out of I guess you could say West Central Iowa, or really it's in Jefferson. Actually, we're in Kevin Bauer and Vaughn Bauer's backyard. I mean, they're all in the same county right here.
Yep.
So, we're not too far away, but unfortunately, a lot of the outlaw hooks for us are quite a ways away for our classes. We run a light limited super is what we started with. It's here behind me. It's actually about finished, and we have an actually aspirated two-wheel drive, which I think the two-wheel drive is probably we're going to park it this year with everything going on, and kind of some uncertainty with everything. I think we're just going to let it set for a while, decide, exactly what direction we want to go with it.
Sure.
Just like I said, I get tired of spending money twice. So, but
The worst pulling's not a great investment, and that spending the money twice makes it just.
yeah, well, I spent the money
3
twice
times
on this, and it was I finally figured out why it decided to grenade on me. It was my own damn fault. So, I will tell you, it helps if you put the oil galley plugs in the front of the motor. So that's why it went south on us.
I have been there. That's no fun.
Yeah.
Moving on, right?
Yeah. You live and you learn.
Well, it's a lot harder if you don't. Yes.
Right.
You how long have you had the white?
So we've been building the white we started building about 3 or 4 years ago. And I'll be honest with you, I have no brand loyalty. I mean, if I had my choice, I'd have a D21. But the D21 just aren't competitive. Just their weight ratio for this class, they just don't work at all. Even in the light super class, they don't work very good either, just because they just don't have that right weight ratio on where that motor sits and that chassis and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, the only reason I picked this Oliver, it's got Oliver 1800 rear end. And I just did a lot of calling around and it said, hey, I called out and talked to a lot of the Kentucky guys. I said, hey, what's the best chassis to run in this class? And I don't really care what it is. And all of it, more people I talked to said the Oliver was the best bet. That's the only reason that's an Oliver there. And then I just, like I said, I didn't really have no sheet metal with it. I just got a rear end and started putting it together. And then, along come, like I said, then it's got a Cummins in it. What's nice about the Cummins is it's pretty versatile, and it's like buying Chevrolet. If you get something break on it, you can get parts pretty quick. Well,
yes,
you could, but last couple of years have been a challenge.
Yeah, and not every part. I mean, there's still enough custom stuff in the alcohol side of things that it can be a struggle.
That's an entire Blackburn rotating assembly in that.
Yes,
in that motor, and I researched a lot of different ways to do it, and there's even guys out there still running the Cummins rod with a set of diamond custom pistons running the alcohol. I mean, then they work fine, but there's a lot of weight swinging around in there.
Yes. Yep. No. And how many times have you pulled the tractor? Was that the first time you got it out when the oil galley plug was missing?
No, it ran 4 times. The first time we ran it would have been 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I got it together at the end of the year, and we took it up to Spencer and ran the light super class.
That's right. Okay.
That was the first time it ran. Then we took it to Guthrie Center, ran it there, and then like I said, we ran it a local kind of a brush pull here in town too. Ran really good. Like I said, we were just getting it figured out, and I actually grew up in Illinois, around that, right across the river from Hannibal, Missouri down there. Okay. And I'd always wanted to go back to pull down there. And that's why we went down to Pleasant Hill, Illinois to pull, because that's where a lot of my family is. And my dad always told me your worst place to go pull is kind of your hometown pull, because something's going to happen. And It's never good when you get down at the end of the track, it shuts off and they start kicking pieces off the track, so.
I've been there. So I've been at the beginning of the track and they're kicking pieces off. So there's
But
never
it
a good
lit,
time.
it ran good. I mean,
Yeah.
we were really happy with it. So.
Yep. No,
it should run a lot better now. We actually got a real turbocharger on it. So.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah. No, somebody needs to give Dan a little competition here. The way it's been going, he's had a pretty strong year out on the east side there.
Well, hopefully Maimans can maybe get their cock shut out too, because I think that thing runs pretty good too. So
the one from Correctionville, is that?
Yep.
Oh, that's a nice tractor.
Yes.
He hooked with us
at Neely, I think.
Correct. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. He was having some trouble, so I hope we'd love to see him out some more. And that leads into another thing. And before we got on here, we were talking about history. That I pulled against that tractor back in the middle 90s.
Oh yeah.
It was really neat. There was a group of us running around, and man, half of them are getting back into pulling again. The new John Deere Cast Light Super or Light Super Ag is one of the old guys. Jeremy Paulson. He had a Deutz years ago. He was running around, and there's several of us. And I understand that's another topic that got brought up, that you pulled a D21 early on. Is that what you got started with, or where did you get started in pulling?
Yeah, well, see, my dad had always pulled D21s in the 70s, and to kind of give you a little back issue why I like the D21. I grew up around Benny McKinnon, Donald McKinnon, Noble Harris, all those guys, and that's who did all the work on my dad's tractor.
Wow.
So I grew up as a D21 fan. I mean, I'm still a D21 fan, and I just like to have one restored. But then things are they're pretty spendy anymore to have a restored.
That's a hard thing to like, because they have gotten so expensive that it's just crazy. They're one of the tractors for sure.
Yeah. So then in the early 90s, when Mid-Iowa modified pullers were running around, we kind of started the super farm class, and so I built my first D21 in. It was just a stock bore stroke D21. Ran it a couple of years. I think we even had maybe a 3LM turbo on it or something. And then I think then finally it kind of I believe NTA kind of come in and took over that class there in Iowa. And so then everybody kind of went to NTPA, and then we were all running the GT42 box turbos. Then they went to the box turbo. But we ran that, and then I had a wild idea, and I was pretty young then. I mean, I had pretty young kids. We thought, well, let's lighten it up. Let's see if we get it down to 6,000 pounds. And it took me a winter of doing nothing but grinding and cutting, and we got it down to 6,000 pounds. I had Al Cook and them guys, they built the rear axles for it. I mean, heck, the suckers they're only about a foot long. I mean, when they were all done with them, they chopped them up, and we kind of took it out and ran it a few times, but then kind of life got in the way. Built a new house, and the wife decided that, I decided that, pulling wasn't in the books for a while. So we had the opportunity to sell that tractor, and that tractor is actually one of the Dolman tractors down there in Missouri now.
Is it real? Okay.
Yeah. It's one I don't know which one it is, but I mean, there ain't much left of it from what I had, but no, that's one of them light supers of theirs is that original tractor. Cause I sold it to Mark Gettinger, and then Mark ended up doing some work to it and sold it to them.
I'll be darned. It would be interesting to know how many D21s that man's had his hands on.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you, I still talk to Mark every once in a while. He's retired now. And I think, I talked to him a couple months ago, and I mean, like I said, he's still involved in pulling. I mean, he's still building stuff out of his shed, and he's still, like I said, he doesn't pull much, but he's still involved in all that.
He'll be retired from his day job. He'll never retire from pulling.
Yeah.
I think that's a life sentence with him.
I've been out there 3 or 4 times and visited with him, and I mean, super nice guy, super helpful. And that's what's great about the pulling group. I mean, everybody's super helpful, super nice. I mean, you think about, I mean, like I said, I just text Terry Blackburn the other day with a question, and 5 minutes later, I got, right back, gave me an answer, and, it don't matter how big they are or how, they're a lot of guys are there to help you.
A majority.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep. And that's, we were talking like all the rules stuff, and I don't care if it's light limited super or your 2-wheel drive, and there's several other classes. There's occasionally we need to step back and remember where we came from and what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody's getting rich at this thing. And,
and we got to realize what we're doing it for. I mean, we're doing it for ourselves, but we're also doing it for the people coming to watch the pull. I think we lose sight of that sometime, that we get caught up in everything. And really we're the entertainment, and I think we lose sight of that. We're there to supply the entertainment. And
yes.
I guess you can get back into as you can say, does the curtains match drapes type stuff, and with the younger generation and all that other stuff going on. I mean, it's hard to get young people interested in this sport anyway, because of the expense and everything. But
yes.
But ultimately we are there to supply the entertainment for the people that hire us.
Correct. Well, I 100% agree with that.
So there's a comment. Jerry Dolan says, we try to compete with Dan, but the tractors always say no. LOL.
Well, I sent Mr. Dolan a picture of a pretty salty tractor. He ought to just write one of his son's checks for.
I'll tell you, if you can make them orange motors run with everybody else, you're a genius. Because I mean, they were great motors in their time, but boy, I tell you what, they're just tough to make them things perform anymore.
Be honest with you, the biggest, and it's a shame that Alice Chalmers built a pretty good engine with a terrible cylinder head.
Yep.
And if they could have ever got around that a little bit, they still would have a viable platform. And the other thing is too, a lot of people don't realize those motors come out in 63. I mean, our DT 466 was not out till 70. I'm an international guy, obviously, but
they were actually ahead of their time.
Yes, they were. Yep.
But it's unfortunate. But like I said, a lot of them 21s have gotten cut up into pulling vehicles, unfortunately.
That's if you want to see something interesting, there's a pretty good registry of D21s, and they have people's names and where they're at and all this stuff. And that's kind of where the comment for Mark Gettinger come in. I've went through that list, and holy smokes, I swear his name's on a third of them.
Yeah. No.
So. Yeah, and I don't know if you saw, but we did lose Guthrie Center this year.
Yeah,
that stinks because that's kind of a hometown pull for you.
Yeah, actually, it's just right down the road, and unfortunate, but I mean, and unfortunately, we lost Humboldt too. Looks like Humboldt's not going to be on schedule.
It went NTPA, and the reason what's going on with Guthrie Center. Are you familiar with that River Ruckus music festival?
I know all about them moving it to Des Moines.
Yeah, I pulled out and went to Des Moines, and they've got kind of a lean year where they got to watch finances and stuff, but they're already discussing working on something for 25. So it's it's going to be a gone this year, but still in play in the future.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you where, I mean, we had a hell of a show down there. I mean, heck, we had four big pro stocks come in.
Oh, I tell you what, that was pretty cool. And one thing I will take my hat off to, we brought in we offered up to 5 spots. I think there was 4 pro stocks that showed up, and those guys were super to work with.
Yep.
We had a little issue with the track that we got fixed, and Kevin Bauer was on top of that and got that all lined out, and but no, they were awesome to us there at that small venue.
Yep. It's a nice little venue. I mean, that county fair, I think the year before they had ECI in there the year before. And that's a long haul for them guys. I mean, like it's a long haul for a lot of you guys who come to Guthrie Center.
Well,
they had several 4-1s show up from Minnesota that kind of saved their show. So,
well, but listen, and it's no disrespect to ECI because they do a great job, but that's one issue with like when we start getting to the outer edges of our regions, the end of the day, not everybody travels like, Dan and some of us,
Yeah.
and it's totally understandable because, man, I look at those guys with the ECI schedule, man, they got a lot of pulls close to home. And I mean, they've got
Yeah.
a very nice schedule, but I would love to see some more pulls get going. You don't think about it. Iowa's kind of a pulling state, but it's kind of in regions.
Yep.
And that center part of the state is a little bit forgotten, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
There, other than the Iowa State Fair, there is nothing in the center state unless you get into like Rockwell, the big NTPA pull
Yes.
up Rockwell. But the center of the state, other than just local truck pulls, it is dead. I mean, there's just nothing.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to think about. In Nebraska, we had a little bit of that going on with our that Mid-America group that come on. They had a fair number of hooks on the eastern side. Our Heartland group had a fair number of hooks on the west side, but you take right in the center, you had the outlaw pull at Ravenna, and Gibbon has done a very nice job. But it's been nice, and Dan's originally from there, but we've actually got 3 or 4 pulls up in that area now. It's been kind of nice to get pulling back into the center part of Nebraska, and maybe in the future, maybe that's something we can do with Iowa as well.
Yeah. I tell you what's really frustrating is we've talked about this too. Is this class? It seems like we can't get a toehold on this class out here like it is out east. I mean, out east, there's new tractors being built left and right in this light limited super class, and it just seems like out here it's hard to get a hold of. I mean, it just seems like, there's some around, but nothing like it is out east.
Well, this is knocking on wood. I've had 2 or 3 calls from eastern Nebraska of guys, and I mean, pretty solid interest. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. We've got one guy talking about building a red tractor, leaning, could either be alcohol or diesel. And we've got another guy from South Central Nebraska that is a potential. And I had one more call from eastern Nebraska. So, hopefully maybe, this thing will start making a little bit of a comeback, because this is a great class, and I really want to see it get rolling.
One thing I really wish it wouldn't happen is I wish NTPA wouldn't have went to that 3-4 turbo rule. Like everybody's going to feel they have to follow that. Like for us alcohol guys, that's an extra 200 horse on. And that's coming from 2 very good probably 2 of the best alcohol burning little light limited supers in the state of Wisconsin. They're saying they ain't going to be able to run with them.
Well, this is my opinion, and my opinion only. There is a difference in the alcohol and diesel, and how you get there, I don't know. But there's so many factors that play in, whether it's weight, that charger deal. I don't know. We're going to have to see where this sorts out,
Yeah. Well, and that's like I said, we can argue all day long with the weight. I mean, because every group thinks the weight needs to be different. And like I said, and I understand everybody wants to have the best setup for their deal. And we could talk all night about where the weight should be. But I think like I said, that's just getting in the weeds. And like I said, one thing nice about the light stuff, keeping as light as we can, is it kind of evens out the competition a lot of times with the lighter weight. So
I do like that as well. And I'll tell you the thing that gets lost. I was in this class. I hate to say this, but I ran a light limited super before it was popular, I guess, and it was at 5,500 pounds, we found a way, and there was some big horsepower at 5,500 pounds back in the day. I remember.
What's crazy is with the technology and the turbos that we got, we're probably producing as much horsepower as a lot of light supers did back in the 90s.
Guaranteed.
With just our little 3x4 turbos.
Yes. Oh yeah. And the other interesting wild card that gets thrown in there is the tire technology. Because, that is something else that it is kind of amazing to look at the weight difference of the old 151 Firestones versus, if you start looking now, Dan, you've been awful quiet, but the 10-ply pullers were the thing that everybody's looking for. Now, all of a sudden, boy, there's a big rush for the dang Pro Pullers and Puller 2000s, it seems like.
Yeah.
That did
I have a set old BFGs.
Oh man, the old BFG pullers.
Yeah, BFG pullers. They are super light.
They were one of the lightest tires in the business back in the day.
Yeah. We're going to run them for a few years and see if we make them work. I had a couple of guys tell me I'm just wasting my time with them, but that's another big investment that you got to decide whether you're going to make. And like I said, you want to make sure you make the right one.
Well, and the thing is too, and I think you hit this nail on the head about spending money twice.
Yep.
Get the thing running, get things ironed out, see where it goes, and then it'd be the time to buy some tires.
Yeah.
Because the hard thing with 30s too is, man, you don't think about the volume of sales in 24.5s versus 30s, but I'll bet you I would not be shocked to see it 8 to 10 to 1. 24.5s sold versus 30s. So there isn't quite the used market. I mean, it's freeing up a little bit with some of the new Mitas and pro pullers and stuff, but it's 30s aren't near as easy to find as 24.5s.
Yep. There's a lot of tires for sale right now too, so there must be a lot of guys getting new tires.
Yeah, I know. I've curiously been. I don't know. That has been. I've been curious about that as well. You have any you got any plans for the summer once you get the tractor going? Well, I guess maybe I should ask first. Will you put it on the dyno?
I talked about we talked about taking it to Terry's and putting it on his dyno. They got nice facilities up there, but
you bet.
At this point, we're not going to run for points anywhere. I mean, I got 5 grandkids now. And like I said, we're just kind of go pick and choose where we want to go.
Yep.
One thing nice is we'll probably hook it in the light super for Iowa hooks. Just because, there's still I don't know if a lot of people realize this. There's still the ITPA out there.
Yeah, that's an interesting deal to me because they run a point series and the whole thing have a banquet. I mean, it's still kind of a sublet of outlaws per se, but they're still somewhat active with the ITPA.
And they have they have a really nice points fund. We have a really nice banquet. It's like I said, and you only collect points off outlaw hooks in the state of Iowa. Or there's maybe a few of them on the Iowa line. So I mean, it's like I said, we'll probably hit some of those because, like I said, we're a member of the Iowa Tractor Pullers too. And we'll probably hook with the light super class with that. I guess I got a question for Dan, and I asked this of Mr. Boyson. Are they if you come down to Corden, are they going to let you run?
Yeah, where?
In Corden, they're going to have the light limited super stock class in Corden down there.
Corden is a PPL pull this year.
But it was on the outlaw schedule.
It was, but they, I tell you what, if you look at that date in Outlaw, we were really struggling to get classes because it's the same day as Wayne, Nebraska.
Okay.
And Wayne is growing like crazy. So they actually went and signed with PPL.
Oh, okay. I was kind of curious if they're going to let the 466s run, down there. Cause I think that's kind of been a big issue too. So.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. Dan, you may live in Wyoming, but I know you know better. Come on. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know because that is something that's going to get run up the flagpole. None of it's going to be popular.
Yeah.
Because, straight from, and listen, I'm not going to bash anybody about this because the thing is, and again, I'll say this loud and clear. There's very good people on both sides of this deal.
Yep.
But, hopefully we can come to kind of a common sense deal that, that makes sense. Because there's also the question I have that, and maybe you can shed some light on this. I mean, you pulled a little bit of the PPL stuff, didn't you, in the past?
Yeah, I did. I pulled a couple hooks with them.
Okay. So you have the diesels, all of the diesels I've seen pretty much run 24.5 tires. Is there a reason for that?
I think that's in their rules.
So only the alcohol can run 30s?
I'm not for sure. I don't know how that works. And even like the Zen boys ended up putting 24.5s on. They got a set of 24.5s they run too.
That's interesting. I got to follow up on that. I don't have an answer for that one.
Yeah, but some of them will say that the diesels, the 24.5s work better with the diesels. For some reason, they say even up in Wisconsin, a lot of them guys have found that in Minnesota, they found that the 24.5s and just the diesel guys, that 24.5 works better for them.
That's interesting. Dan, did anybody have 24.5s when you were up there at WTPA?
There might have been maybe one or two, but the majority were on 30s.
Because, see, Badger State's, I think
I think Badger State's 24.5, aren't they?
Except, you know what? Some of the alcohol guys have hooked. I'll tell you what, now I'm curious. Now I'm going to have to make some calls or talk to some people because I'd like to know, if the reason, because I will tell you, we put some 24.5s on our tractor, on my mom's alcohol tractor. And in the past, I've been beat a lot by 24.5s in certain places. And we found out last year real quick that if you got on some real loose tracks, you might as well just know where you're going to finish. We got some real sandboxes, and it was, and we knew that we're not quite on par with horsepower Dan, but it was unbelievable. I mean, it was just like, forget about it. Now maybe a newer set of pro pullers or something like that might be different where they're a little bigger, but yeah, that's a question we need to get answered to, just see what the difference is.
Yeah, I don't know why I want to say that Badger State's 24.5s, but I could be wrong.
Well, Badger State they were always 24.5, but see, in the last couple of years, they allowed, there's been some changes in that class, and we'd love to hear if anybody knows for sure, but they ran 6,700 pounds, and 24.5 tires, 410 diesel with the cooler and 315 and no alcohol. But they have since, I believe, dropped to 6,500 pounds, and I think they run the alcohol at 6,250.
Okay.
But and if I'm not mistaken, well, we have to go back and think about this because Western Series, they run 65 and 64. Is that correct, Shaun?
Yeah, that's correct. 65 and 64. Everybody runs the same turbo. I mean, no, like I said, no. It's just smooth bore 3x4. I mean, so
yes.
Like I said, I haven't. Like I said, we set out last year, so I don't know what, everybody's thinking. I'm
sure. Well, ECI was running 65 and 6250. I think a 250 pound difference.
Yeah, and
I think same as Badger State.
And I think they were talking about dropping their weight some, just because of the difference in the weight was 250 pounds is quite a bit.
Yes.
I don't know if they ever did. Like I said, I think there's maybe 5 or 6 core tractors that run with those guys. So like I said, I've never hooked with them. Like I said, just hear talk and stuff like that. I couldn't really tell you how their breakdown is.
Is there many alcohol tractors that run ECI?
Just the two Zen boys.
Okay.
Just the two whites.
That's also interesting because if you look at Badger State, I don't believe there's many alcohol tractors that run with them, and it looks like John Anderson, I saw that he had his for sale the other day. The Medley tractor covered in red.
The diesel guys have done their homework. And before the alcohol guys had, you could put a pretty decent alcohol motor together and be pretty competitive. And a lot of the diesel guys have been doing their homework and gotten it figured out. And they've, like I said, they're like I said, with the dynos and everything else out there and the fuel injection, like I said, I know that the top running, one of the top running tractors up there, they have a 12 millimeter pump rule, but they don't have 12 millimeter plungers in them, so
who has the 12 mil? Who has that pump rule?
Do what?
Who has that 12 millimeter pump rule? I've never heard of that.
Isn't that a 12 millimeter pump rule in that up there on the NTPA or up in the Badger States or somewhere where they got to run a certain pump housing?
P7100, and then it can.
7100.
I think there's a lot of 16 mil pumps running around up in a lot of those places.
Yeah.
I don't know of 13 is a real common limit, but I don't know of that outside of like our light limited pro and some of those.
Yeah. I've
'Cause
talked to several guys. They say the red motor to buy if you're going to run that class, will get you a DT 408 out of the school bus. That is the motor for the light limited super class if you want to run a diesel.
Well, see, Badger State's now allowing decubing, so you could actually do that with a DT 414 as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
really?
Yeah. I tell you what, there's so many. This is the problems with this class in a nutshell. You can go out and look and find 8 different answers. It's kind of rough, you know.
That's why I push for rule across the board.
Well, yeah, try to get something. Yeah.
Yeah, some unity.
And I will say when I started Heartland and we adopted this class in 2011, we basically went to what the Gordyville rules were at the time. Because we in 2009 we'd went out and pulled Gordyville and had a great time. Honestly, I was in love with the class as far as the colors and the different, man, there was about one of every make and model, and I thought it was awesome. But I'm not saying this is a problem, but it's like everybody went back to their groups and ran what they ran. But they will, in the day they'd all go to Gordyville and mix it up. So that's why, that's why I did what I did out here.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Gordyville, and I don't know, and maybe you could answer this. They don't allow the 3.4 Charger in Gordyville, do they?
Yeah, they did.
There's no 3.4 Charger tractors there, was there?
It was required or mandated. They went away from the slot and went to 3.4 by 4.
And Shaun, that's going to be interesting to me and I would not have known this without Dan going up there and getting to meet some of the guys, that a majority of the WTPA guys that are running the large, well, they're not really running the large, almost all of them ran 3x4 slotted Chargers. Is that correct, Dan?
Yeah. Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see. I am a huge opposite proponent. Slotted Chargers are really hard to tech. And, there's a lot of ways to circumvent the rules. And that's why I really like the smoothbore deal. It'll be interesting to see when the day gets done if the 3.4 is less than the slots or equal. And I don't believe we have an answer. I don't have a concrete answer yet. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe NTPA went to a 3.4 smooth, but now you cannot run 3-inch slots, correct?
You can't. No slotted Charger the way I understand it.
So that'll take some time to sort out to see if there is any changes.
Yeah.
I think you'll see some tractors running a little differently than they were.
Well, like I said, time will tell. We'll find out more. to be determined. Yeah.
Yep. No.
But I do think one thing that needs to be kept in mind with this deal is we need both fuels. To me, that's one thing that makes this class really interesting, and we need to be mindful of that to make sure that both are capable. Now, with that being said, I hate making rules we can't legislate my 560 competitive. That's not what that's about. It's, about taking the best of each fuel and making sure that they could be, how do you want to say that politically correct, Dan? Can you help me out?
No,
you want to make sure that the guys that, have put the time and effort and really went to work, that both fuels are capable of being competitive.
Yeah.
No, I agree. That's one thing I love about the class is the dual of the fuel. If you to say,
Yeah, and everybody that's seen the class really likes it. They like, man, that was a fun class to watch. But it's just like we talked about out here, just getting the numbers to get 7 or 8 solid tractors. We're not there yet. I hope to be there someday.
Well, and we're working. We'll keep twisting on Dave Todd to drive a little bit once in a while, and if we get you out, that'll be great. like you said about the cockshut, I think he's had a little bit of issues, but we get him out. Jerry Dolan's working on some stuff, and like I said, I'll twist his arm on that fancy Alice in Florida. He'd look good on that thing.
It wasn't just a chassis though, so you'd still have to get a power plant.
Oh, there's no motor in that thing?
No, there's no motor in that. It's a rolling chassis.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I need to read the fine print once in a while.
You thought you were going to get a heck of a deal, didn't you?
Oh, I was like, man, that was cheap. But yeah, well, either way, it is a nice tractor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then you got Dwayne getting his Moline done. That should be done this year now.
It should. Oh, that'd be awesome.
I don't know if you get
Okay.
Kyle to work too.
Yeah. Got Kyle coming out. Hopefully.
Yeah, Kyle, hopefully. So, but that's quite a ways out west. But what we're hoping is that we can, we're going to have to mix and match what we head east with. And, that's, at times, hopefully Kyle can take off with 2 light limited supers, which would be real nice.
Jerry says no.
No. Well, tell him to get back to work on his own stuff then.
we just need to find somebody to sponsor a sweep so it kind of gets the guys more interested in traveling.
Like I said, it's like we figure when we leave home, it's $1. Like I said, we got a semi and trailer. We figure it's $1 a mile. From the time we leave the house, it's $1 a mile to get somewhere. And when you got 250 miles there and 250 miles back, well, and that's just getting there and back. You're at $500, and you do that every weekend. That can add up pretty quick.
Wish you wouldn't say stuff like that, because I remember driving out to Guthrie last year, and I think it was farther than that.
It's a long ways from you.
Yeah, no, I'm not complaining. Speaking of that, any chance of seeing the Light Limited Pro that you sat on last year a few times?
I doubt it.
Okay.
The tractor needs a lot of updating.
Sure.
It's a good running tractor. The motor needs freshened up. Like I said, the gentleman that's got it, he's got a lot of irons in the fire. And like I said, I'll tell you, I don't know how these guys do it with running when they show up with 2 vehicles. That was just right in our backyard. And I'll tell you what, by the end of the night, I was tired trying to get 2 vehicles and get everything done. And we had help down there, and it was a lot of work, to try to run 2 vehicles.
Yes. Yeah, I understand. No, that is, and it splits everything up too, and that's the hard thing.
And I screwed up on that run because I knew that track didn't have no bite at the beginning, and at the starting line, I dumped the clutch on it. That's the first time I'd ever drove that tractor, and I dumped the clutch probably a little too hard, and I was in the wrong part of the track. And we had way too many weights on the front of the tractor, and but like I said, the guy was happy to see it run, and that was him and his wife were there, and they got to see it run, and they are very, very happy and pleased.
Oh, good. We how far is Randolph for you?
Randolph is still probably a good 2.5 hours for me down there in that southwest corner of the state. Yep.
Okay. So I'm looking forward to that one. I'll tell you another one, and it kind of stinks in the middle of the week, but man, you ought to, that West Point one is a good one.
Yeah.
That's another really nice pull.
Yeah. There's a lot of good tractor pull. I just wish there was a lot more of it close to home.
Yeah, and that's I agree.
Yeah, Dan, you got it worse than I do.
All jokes aside, Dan can hit several pretty close to Cheyenne, actually.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah.
But the problem is we like to go elsewhere too, because I love pulling at home, but I tell you, I thoroughly enjoy heading out to eastern Nebraska and western Iowa. I don't know. I like pulling different places,
Yeah. Go to places you've never been before.
Well, like Dan and those guys, Dan and Dave, they went to Wisconsin, and we touch up a few rule things and stuff, but I think they had a good enough time. They'd probably consider going back.
Yeah. And I think we're going to try and maybe go to Ohio sometime this summer too.
Really?
Yeah. Pull with that Ohio group. I got to be really good friends with a guy out there. We've never met, but we talk all the time, and he's invited us to come down there. So we might try and go down there and play with those guys.
What time of the year is that, Dan?
I told him if he could find a deal kind of like what we went to in Wisconsin, where there's a couple
2 or 3 dates. Yeah.
Yeah. And he sent me a couple times this year that we could have went and hooked 3 or 4 times on a weekend. So,
oh man, that Ohio, well, I'm going to speak just from like the old days of looking at the puller. Never ceased to amaze me that you look at the Illinois pulls and man, you could almost pull every night of the week.
Yeah.
When I was a little kid, that's one thing when my dad pulled, you could literally pull every night of the week in Illinois in the 70s. I mean, 70s and early 80s. I mean, you could just go wherever you wanted and every night. I mean, we leave 4 or 5 days at a time and just hit this pole, go to the next pole, go to the next pole. It was just, like I said, there's a lot of tractor pulling out there.
Yes. That is for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, Wisconsin's the same way. I think there's 4 or 5 nights a week you could pull out there too. There's
so many. What we don't understand, because I mean it's not that way here, but there's so many groups.
Yeah.
Because I mean, in Wisconsin they were talking about what WTPA and there's Badger State. I think there's a couple other groups too, isn't there, Dave or Dan?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think. Yeah. Yeah, because we could have. Well, we were out there. I think we could have hit 3 or 4 hooks in 2 days, and not traveled more than like 40 miles.
Yeah, I know. I talked to a guy from Badger States too, and he said he goes about the most we ever have traveled for a pole is about 100 miles. That's about everything. Everything just tight.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's just hard to believe.
That's a hometown pole for us.
Right. Yeah, and that's the other crazy. We don't think. I mean, we expect that where we're at, but we don't think about that for you in in Central Iowa.
Yeah.
Is that Ford Light Limited Pro? Is that somewhere in the vicinity of you two? That Ryan, is it Pickard or Picard?
I don't believe. Maybe there is somebody around here with that. There's like I said, Lundell's are not very far from me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they're not very far. They're probably only 30 miles west of where I'm from.
Okay.
There's some pro farms from over around this area.
Yeah.
There's a few of those. But like I said, the main vehicles here in Central Iowa are pretty much, you got like the vehicles that are pulling here in Central Iowa are either, your big mod guys, you got Paulson, you got Longnecker, you got all those guys right here in Central Iowa, you got now, who knows what Bowers are going to come up with next. They say there's an unlimited super up there. But
they're supposed to have a diesel super, aren't they?
Yeah, diesel super. They're coming out. Well, I guess Chaos is building it. Is what, like I said, they were just rumors until you see it. So,
yeah, but there's.
I'm sure it'll run.
Oh, yes, yep. So, I'm sure Adam isn't going to be planning on sitting on much of a second place horse.
Yep,
or at least trying. I'll be darned. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
And where in Iowa are you from then?
We're right off of Highway 30. Kind of, I guess, kind of put it simple. You know where Boone is, or
yeah.
We're just back from Boone, about 20 miles west, right on Highway 30.
Okay.
So
I spent some time in Boone.
Yeah.
So yep.
No, I know that we talked there in the past, Greg, about how we met years ago. We didn't really meet, but I don't know if I told the story. We were both in Boone, Iowa. Here's the story. We were both in Boone, Iowa. It was a NTPA region pull. I think it was probably early 90s. And
would have been 97.
Yeah, and we were both. I just had my goddamn super farm there with my little GT42, and I entered it in the 7,500 pound super stock class because I just wanted to go somewhere to go because of the rain out. And I mean, everybody showed up. And I mean, Shag Nazi was there. I mean, everybody was there.
I pulled
year.
in and Kevin Lynn was sleeping under his trailer.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck?
And I remember standing beside, the only reason I kind of recognized your name when we first kind of started talking was Kenny Sanders was standing there. We were at the start line. He goes, "Hey, watch this little 560. This is pretty good run a little tractor here out of Colorado." And I don't know why I remember that, but that's kind of how I put kind of two together when we started talking, here the last couple of years. I ended up showing up my super farm. I ended up getting 6 because the track was so muddy and tacky. Everybody else was going out of bounds or couldn't drive their tractor. So,
well, to be honest, that was one of the first times I saw a Bauer sled.
Oh, it was?
Yep, because they had I remember it. They were running hydros in them, and they were having such a hard time because of all the rain and everything. But I mean, it was a rocket ship compared to a lot of the sleds that we'd been around.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has been a day or two, man. That's a lot of pretty good memories.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know if we had the cages in.
Oh, absolutely not. No,
because I remember you had an old pan seat on that 560, didn't you?
No, I had a plastic high back seat.
Okay.
Because but see that year I actually I had a really good year in '96, and the next year I bought an NTPA membership and got all this flywheel inspected and clutch, and I took off, and man, I'm not gonna lie, we put 25,000 miles on a damn old 6.2 diesel pickup. Just we went everywhere slow, and we spent 3 weeks at one time out there, and I'm trying to think. I went to Cresco, Iowa, which is a hell of a long ways for us. And I was on my way to Toma, and I broke that the night before in Cresco. We pulled with Randy Rose there. That would have been in '97. And I think the next night in Toma is when that rolled over and when that stuff the roll cage deal got started. But, there actually wasn't an SFI spec until I believe it wasn't mandatory until '99, because they, it took a while to get all the testing done. So, yeah, damn, that was a long time ago.
Surprised you remember back then.
What else do I have to think about, man?
All right, you got me.
Yeah, no, that was a good time. But it's a shame. You look at all the old light supers that were around there, between the Braybecks and you mentioned Kenny Sanders and also Eckenrod's is one of my favorites.
I don't know if it was Vane Revs or Eckenrod. Somebody said that light super that they had. Somebody said that's that malfunction junction tractor that runs the West Central or ECI now.
It used to be Allen. Yeah, it used to be Moore's, but they sold it.
Yep. I heard through the grapevine that was either that was a light super one, from.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think it was one of them two.
Wow, that would make sense. That's interesting.
I don't know where Kenny's ended up. I don't know. I think it probably ended up down in Kentucky somewhere, but I don't know where he ended up sending that tractor.
Right, that's interesting. Huh. Yeah. Well, long time ago. I tell you what, I hate to get this way, but I miss those days, the simplicity of it, and we had some good times. Like you talk, and my parents kept pretty detailed records. They for whatever reason, my mom kept a notebook of every class they pulled in, how they finished. Man, is that interesting to go back and clear back into like the early '70s. So it's crazy, crazy the names that come up.
My dad in the early '70s, he started out with an XT190, and what's crazy about it is they'd put multiple turbos on that thing, then they'd take them off and farm with it too. But they built the first D21 that could make the 7, and it had little bitty planter wheels on it. Out the front of it, the planter wheels would break off of it sometime on the front end. There's some videos of it on that sidetrack deal. Some of them old 70 videos. I had a bunch of reel tape here and sent it out. I think that Charles, that guy that does that.
Yeah.
And he turned them into a DVD deal, and they should be on our website or on our Facebook page. But yeah, we got a lot of the, like I said, there's footage of the John Deeres, Cajun Queens, they're on there. The Minneapolis Bowling, the 10 houses are on there, and the McKinnons are all on there. Like I said, it was different time, but like I said, Noble built that D21 for my dad, and they ran it a couple years, and then like I said, it found its new home somewhere. I don't know where it ended up going, but no, like I said, that was the first 21 that they could get in a 7, and I think it had 3 turbos on it.
That's interesting. I got a good story about the first time we ever ran across a 5,000-pound 4010. There's a Bill Williams out of southeastern Colorado, and it's hard to believe that my dad had started gathering parts to build a 4010. As red as that guy is, Bill Williams crashed that dang thing with 700 pounds of suitcase weights on the front of it. Just had a terrible wreck, and my dad went home and sold everything.
Really?
Well, my dad was telling me a story about I think it was Donald McKinnon, and they had that John Deere they called the Polecat. I think it was a black John Deere. And Dad says he got thrown off that damn thing one night, and he was hanging on by the throttle.
Oh Lord!
And he pulled himself back up on that tractor and shut it down. And they were loggers. That was their business, is they were loggers, so they were pretty stout, and scrappy guys.
Yeah.
And Dad said he was literally hanging off the side of that tractor, going down the track with the throttle wide open. He pulled himself back up on the side of that tractor, got back up on the seat, and shut that thing down.
Yeah,
because what he was telling.
This 4010 that my dad saw with all those weights, he found out 15 years later they were all aluminum. There's a couple 100 pounds of weight was all it was. So, yeah. Well, I tell you what, Shaun, we need to do this again sometime.
Yeah, no problem. I tell you what, I love talking pulling. I mean, that's kind of like I said, all of our kids are moved out of the house, and this is kind of the only thing I got going on in life. But just between the grandkids and tractor pulling, that's about the extent of my life right now.
Yeah. Well, Dan's over there just working all winter, so he can take off and go run and go pull. So,
yeah.
Well, I drive a semi grain during the fall and then I work fields in the spring, so I can afford to do this. That's how
that's the extra. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that very well. So, all right. Well, I've got to run. So, man, I sure appreciate it. Dan, you got anything else?
I don't. Pretty quiet tonight.
And Shaun, I'll tell you one thing I would love to do sometime if we could find the right guys. I'd love to get a roundtable discussion on all the different rules and try to get 4 or 5 light limited super guys, and not to argue about who's right and who's wrong, but it'd be nice to sort out the differences and see where we all really are.
Yeah. Well, the thing is everybody, like the big thing is everybody talks about all that. Everybody's thinking everybody's going to have the advantage over whatever, and this like I said, the bigger turbo ain't going to be able to run with this, but like we talked about them going with a 3.4 Charger at NTPA. Nobody really knows yet.
Well, we got to see.
They won't know until they get through the middle of the year.
Yep. And it's hard. Every track is different. Sometimes some things will have advantages on a loose track versus a really good track. I mean, that's all part of the deal, the give and take. So.
Yep.
Dad.
Yep.
Dwayne wants to know about the rule book.
Well, that got kicked into my corner pretty hard. I know a guy that needs to stop and proofread it, huh, Jazz?
Yeah.
That's on me, Dwayne. I'll raise my hand right here. Yep. I will try to take a little time and proofread it for you, Jazz.
Thanks.
All right. So, okay. Well, guys, we'll probably go ahead and call tonight. Shaun, thank you so much. We're looking forward to seeing that thing get out. Keep the oil on the right side of the motor, and man, hopefully you'll have a great year.
Hey, you mind if I thank a couple sponsors then that I got
Absolutely.
on the tractor there?
No, absolutely.
So
And-
I got a couple guys that helped me out quite a bit. And one of them is BJ Wright with Wright Club Lambs. He helps me out quite a bit. And Bill Hamill with Hamill Transport. Both them guys helped me out quite a bit and wouldn't be able to do it without them. And of course, got to thank my wife for letting me do this. I don't know. She doesn't care much for it, but she tolerates it.
Yep. No, very good. And also, we should mention that you've got a pretty active Facebook page. Is it Ironhorse Motorsports? Is that correct?
Yeah, we haven't had much on there because I don't want to just keep putting up redundant stuff there without really not much updates. It's just like I said, we're kind of the winter lull, but we'll get stuff going on there again.
Yeah. Oh, very good. All right. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and call it a night, and I appreciate it. And we'll talk again. Dan, thanks for jumping in, and
You bet.
we'll see you guys next week.